tempe trinle yarngot belge drolor zampe ze parachi pande lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajradara sumati munisha sanekar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum hum Oma guru vajra sumati munisha sanekar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Munish Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishasan Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om A Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishasan Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om A Guru Vajra Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseche Ningne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshun Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hunge Drubra Chingelo Soni Sodan Dikdun Shabetse Dunge Namke Yin So Lekshu Lapchen Soni Yonso Zopadan Chera Nidun Chamra Chingel Chancho Parge Ninsen Tukun Tu Niu Pemes Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen Dela Drubra Chingel Dagi Lona Chola Chokpadan Chemin Samjur Ngemba Shiwa Chedan Tumbe Dedun Malupa Bemel Hunge Drubra Chingelo Dorna Tengne Tsera Tamched Techi Pardo Nekav Tamchetu Rese Kyamne Lama Kele Tukje Chingi Dala Siksu So Gongyav Drewe Nyamda Dachal Jetsun Lame Tuche Rab Gongne Kudan Sungi Nawa Drame Tu Nyam Sunyoe Kesan Topra Sho Kewa Drame Cheki Pela Long Chechi Sada Lamge Yende Rab Dorje Change Kopa Nyur Top Shoyo Pakyu Ke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyu Ke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyu Ke Tugdan Dagi Tön Yerme Chikto Chingi Lu Makyu Ke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyu Ke Tudan Dagi Tön Yerme Chikto Chingi Lu Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Munye Swaha Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Drola Pinchire Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchire Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Drola pinchira sangue druparsho. Nel Buddha,
in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo yal haye ke dan ludan nue jin ke drubundan da mi ke nam dan druwa kun ke dranam chi tsampa. Tamche ke tu dagi chöten to, tamche ke tu dagi chöten to. Buongiorno.
Good morning. I'd like to start with a verse from Shantideva. He was an important master in India, in the Nalanda monastery. For the good part of his life, in the monastery, he was called as a person who was mainly creative. By creativity, I mean pooping, eating, and sleeping. These were the three main things which were attributed to him, because he was doing his part in the monastery, but he was sleeping a lot in the morning, which wasn't very much seen. And at a certain point, he was seen as a kind of parasite who was consuming the energies of the monasteries. And the other monks thought of sending him away, but couldn't find a solid excuse to send him away, to kick him out, because after all, he wasn't going against the main rules. He just had a conduct which was a bit controversial. He was very much on his own. He was speaking very much. He was speaking very little. He was sleeping a lot, which wasn't seen that well. A couple of generations ago, if you would sleep late in the morning, it wasn't seen as a positive sign. Like one day, my master woke me up. It was a Tuesday when I could sleep till late. So that day, Lama, my teacher, was knocking on my door. Wake up! Shame on you, it's already 11 a.m. And then I was feeling very much ashamed. I would wake up, and then I looked at the clock, and it was 7 a.m. Only 7 a.m., but he would wake up at 3 a.m. So he was kind of joking. Breakfast was on the table. So going back to Shantideva, he was sleeping till late in the morning. And in the monastery, they tried to send him away. So there was a certain rule according to which, after a few years, every monk had to recite by heart a very long text and then comment on it. And whoever wasn't able to do that was sent away from the monastery. So in that case, for Shantideva, they applied this rule and they asked him to give this test. So that day, everyone was convinced he wouldn't be able to pass that exam. At Nalanda, they were very, very strict on quality, on academic quality. So that day, first of all, to make fun of him, they would prepare a very, very high seat without a ladder to put him out of his comfort zone. As you can see in Nalanda, it was the most important monastery in India, but you can tell something wasn't according to legend. So he did climb up without any effort. So he asked, "What do you want from me? Would you like me to recite an existing text or something which I composed?" And they said, he won't know anything by heart, and his composition won't be up to standard. So they opted for the composition. They were very, very strict. There was a panel of experts which would evaluate the manuscript. They would read it and value it from the content point of view, grammar, form, and much more. If the content wasn't up to standard, they would do something very, very awful. They would tie up the manuscript on the tail of a dog and would send the dog around across the city. We will never publish it. This happened with Bhutta Palita, who was an important master. His manuscript, which was later on saved, and was the text that Lama Tsongkhapa used to realize emptiness. But because he was coming from a lower caste, and here you can see many prejudices. So when he wrote his commentary on the correct vision of reality, he wouldn't have a proper writing style. He would use a very simple writing style because his education was basic. So they would refuse, they would reject this manuscript. This was the reality of the Nalanda monastery. It was an Albagnano where everyone would clap on other people's composition. There was very, very strict. So he started reciting the Bodhisattva Charyavatara text, which is still today one of the most important texts in Buddhist literature. So he started reciting this beautiful text. It said that when he got to the 8th chapter, he started floating. And this kind of ability. So when it said that when someone starts floating, only those on the same level can follow along. So when he got to the 9th chapter, only few people could keep up with the text, could keep following. So when they manifested interest, he replied, "I'm leaving the monastery. If you need a copy of the manuscript, you'll find it in my room somewhere there." The truth is, overnight he had a vision with Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom. So that's why he would sleep until late, because at night he wouldn't sleep having this special relationship, this special contact with Manjushri, being able to write down this beautiful manuscript, this text, which is today one of the most important ones. So there's a passage on the 6th chapter on patience. It's a beautiful, long, strong chapter where which means there's no austerity as patience and there's no negative force as anger. Austerity means something where people put some sort of effort but brings along a positive result. In India, there were many practices of austerity, not eating, special positions. There is no more beneficial practice of austerity than practicing patience. And among the destructive forces, there's nothing stronger than hate and anger. When we talk about patience, first of all, let's try to get out of our traditional concept of patience. Let's go back. Patience, in this context, has two meanings based on a fundamental, essential concept. I won't lose my balance in front of a certain situation. There's a certain external situation, an object of anger, which can be the behavior of someone else, a material situation, a memory, a specific object. I saw people getting angry with the corner of the bed. Can be many things, can be ourselves. The object of anger is something that when we're facing it, so when we're facing it, we lose our own balance in front of it. Patience is the attitude where I am facing something which is dragging me out of my comfort zone. I can't leave that situation in harmony, at peace. And I manage with patience not to lose my balance. So this means an extra effort to keep my own balance in front of a situation which drags me out of my comfort zone. This doesn't mean an aggressive reaction. Sometimes we do not react with aggressivity, with anger, but still within ourselves we lost our harmony, we lost our balance. And this is also a case where we have lost patience. Patience is also applied to when we have to perform a certain task, and along the path there are difficulties, obstacles. Not being blocked by these obstacles and continuing my objective means having patience. So if I'm doing something and I encounter a certain condition, too hot, too cold, physical effort, someone interfering, or any other situation that pulls us out of our comfort zone, and we are blocked by that, we have lost our patience. We do not have any patience. Patience means I'm in a certain direction, I'm doing a certain action, there are things I don't like, which drag me out of my comfort zone, but I do not lose my balance. I stay where I am and I continue in that direction. Yeah? The other level of lack of patience is when we get out of our comfort zone, we lose our own calmness, we suffer, and the reaction, the natural reaction in front of this suffering is to project the cause of our suffering towards a certain object, and we do not say thank you, very good. We develop aversion. This aversion as long as it ferments, sometimes quicker, slower, it turns into aggressiveness, starting from mental one. Have you ever sent someone to hell mentally without putting it into words? So aggression starts on a mind level, then goes to a verbal and then to a physical level. Shantideva says there's no austerity like patience, means there's no difficult practice, because of course avoiding to be aggressive and staying balanced when there's a certain situation which drags us out of that comfort zone. So he says there's no other benefit like patience, because there's no stronger negative force like anger. When we react in an aggressive way, we destroy whatever it was positively built. An example is a relationship between two people. To build up trust, love, affection, how long does it take? It doesn't happen suddenly. It happens gradually, step by step. It can happen quickly, but then we need some time to stabilize it. Let's say a relationship among the whole of us. We have a mutual trust, but if I would get angry with some of you and send you to hell and react in a very aggressive way, what could happen with trust, with the trust that was among us? Depending on the type of reaction and on the solidity of the relationship, at least our trust is a little bit damaged. When we feel aggression from the other person, there are times when we pretend nothing happened, he had a bad day, he's not feeling well, he had a difficult time. But whenever someone is aggressive towards us, this works within us. After a few hours, when everything looks fine, still there's a wound, and slowly destroys, becomes corrosive. And then we need to work on that. Few aggressive moments, angry moments, can destroy years of work, creating harmony, friendship, trust, and so on. It's like that. We can build up a reputation. I may have spent years with a perfect conduct, but if I have a completely out of order reaction, let's say during the teaching someone comes to me and I get extremely angry and I slap this person. What happens with my reputation? No, Lama today incarnated Yamantaka. No. Someone to keep some sort of internal consistency will make up some excuse. And I've seen many of these scenes where someone with a beautiful reputation in a public context punches another person in the stomach, in the belly, and the 2,000 present people are astonished. Then someone else tried to justify, but most people lost the trust. So when we get angry, do we keep control? Lama Rinpoche said, when we have strong emotions like anger, envy, jealousy, and so on, and anger is one of the best ones, as an example, we become like an oracle, a medium. When there's an oracle, the person loses control and the spirit enters and starts speaking. And same happens to us. The person speaking is the anger. And when everything is faded off, it's too late. Even if I was angry, I lost control. What I said and what I did, I'm responsible about that. And damages are done. They are there. Without entering too much into detail, there are Nagarjuna texts commented later on by Chandrakirti, who was the reincarnation of Buddha Balida, who rewrote the same book in a more poetic way because he was born in a higher caste. Therefore, he was more accepted. One of the chapters within Chandrakirti's text talks about anger and patience. It explains the destructive force of anger and hate, comparing them to numbers, which are the time of positive force generated. One instant of anger can destroy an innumerable moment of beautiful positive energy generated, eons. In our daily life, how much can anger damage? We all experience someone in our surroundings who manifested a strong emotion of anger towards ourselves or someone else. To heal these wounds left by anger, it takes a lot of time. It doesn't happen just in a second. Anger is a state where we lose control of ourselves. We end up saying whatever we wouldn't say. We would do something we wouldn't normally do. And even if we say something right with anger, we leave a very profound wound. This is what happens. So, first of all, it is very important to reflect and observe, remember how can a certain behavior can damage, can hurt. So, be mindful not to be carried away physically, then verbally, and finally, eventually, mentally. The antidote for anger, the main one, is the patience. Patience. If someone says I get angry very often, if I say I get angry very often, someone replies, you should be patient. Yeah, come on, thank you. So, first of all, the only being in the world who has the real power to take my balance away is myself. That's the only being. No one else can really do that. We leave the surrounding world using as a reference the I, ourselves. So when we face a certain situation, which according to our experience can harm the I and doesn't let us feel good, we naturally put ourselves in a defense mode, in a fight or flight mode. When we face anger, very often there's always at the base a feeling of the I and the my. One of the most profound antidotes to face anger is to get out of the I and the my and allow ourselves to see the other person. The main point isn't myself. That person behaves in a certain way. Yeah, okay. It's his or her moment. There's a certain process and situation going on, but it doesn't necessarily have something to do with myself. Who can really get me out of my balance is myself. Yesterday I asked whoever read the manual of epithet, please read it, at least the first pages. It starts saying there are two types of things. Those that depend on us and those that don't depend on us. Depends on us. Depend on us are our thoughts, our emotions, values, choices, actions. Don't depend on us, the body, whatever the others do and say, how they behave, the weather, hot or cold, whatever is around us. And then it goes on by saying suffering arises from trying to keep control on something which doesn't depend on us. Happiness is having control on something that depends on us and understanding that something that doesn't depend on us is like that. Then Stoics would bring this to an extreme. Epictetus himself, he was a slave. So one day, when his body wasn't his property, and when his owner gave him a physical punishment, was breaking his arm, he would stay calm and say, whatever I feel depends on me. You can do whatever you can do to my body, but not to my person. So the owner breaks his arm and he stays quiet. This is a bit of an extreme. The body, today there are no slaves, so the body depends on us, whatever we eat, how we behave, and so on. But if we can divide these two categories, whatever the other person's attitude doesn't depend on us. So why do I suffer from your behavior? Honestly, if I can be saddened by other people's behavior, I should be unhappy all the time. We don't need to look that far to find, let's say, harmful behaviors. So why do I get sad when someone close to me says a couple of stupid, silly things, and I don't get sad when there are homicides far away? The reason is that when you say something silly, there's the I and the my involved. Whenever there's a homicide or a mayhem or any other bigger event, the I and the my are not involved. So I don't feel so touched. In 2016 or 17, I had a situation where I got very, very angry. There was a mix of threats, blackmail, and there I lost my balance. I got close to the other person, very, very close. I raised my voice and I lost my balance. That moment of anger lasted maybe 30 seconds, 1 minute, and I immediately calmed down afterwards. There's a scene in the first part of The Lord of the Rings where Gandalf grows and then comes down. This powerful, aggressive force which rises, and I was really ready to punch the other person, which inflated and then deflated. After that, I left. I was in Albagnano, I went for a walk, and I was left with a strong pain in my belly for a couple of hours. And I thought, first of all, if 1 minute of anger, imagine staying with anger for longer time. This person and these kind of situations, can I make sure that I will never have to face them? No. So I took a profound commitment with myself. Whatever happens, I will never allow myself to react in this way, because it damages myself deeply. And up to today, I managed to keep up with this commitment. I am the owner of myself, not you. You do not have this magic power of taking my balance away. I will not allow you to have this power. To you or no one else. We often allow other people to have the power on us. There was a man, rich, influential, powerful, came to me and said, "Look, Lama, I feel like a huge bull, strong, powerful, with a huge ring on the nose, and is pulled away." In that case, it was desire and attachment. But same can happen with anger. When there's a lot of desire and attachment, there's also a lot of anger. Things go together usually. So we need to find in our daily life tools, inner tools, and also external tools, not to allow ourselves to get out of our balance, because life inevitably brings us to situations where we are out of our comfort zone. And the more contractual conditions we put in the contract with ourselves, in order to keep my balance, I need to have this and that situation, condition. These must be excluded, and so on. Who will lose from this? The more clause we put in our contract with life, the more difficult it will be to sign it. Sometimes people said, "Lama, if something happens, I will get angry." And I replied, "It's not my problem. Get angry. Get mad. Come on, do it." I'm not under emotional blackmail. I'm more and more vaccinated by this. Since I was a child, I've never been weak with anger, but I was always surrounded by very reactive people. Even in India, Jigme, the one without fears, he had a beautiful heart, but he was often very, very angry. I saw him twice. I saw him being aggressive twice. So I'm quite vaccinated. But when we get angry, we mainly harm ourselves. And we create a situation where the other person suffers. When we're facing someone angry or has an aggressive attitude, one of the keys to protect ourselves is to see the other person. Understand that aggressiveness is a manifestation of suffering of the other person. Because aggression and anger are a way to protect ourselves from a suffering state. No one gets aggressive and anger if stays in a comfort zone, in a balanced state. We get aggressive, and there are exceptions related to a habit, speaking in an aggressive way, even if it's not manifested anger. Some years ago, there was a person close to me who started to be very aggressive, and I said, "Hey, nothing is going on." And this person said, "I'm not angry." If you're not angry, don't speak like that. I'm not talking like that. You are. So a habit is when we do not pay attention to it anymore. And someone who loves you has the responsibility to act as a mirror with a safety distance. The mirror is not always accepted, so slowly, gently. When we see that the other person reacts with aggression, loses patience, is after all manifesting a suffering, and when we can see the other person in this process of suffering and therefore reaction which will cause even more suffering, and we can see the person with compassion, possibly from a security, from a safety distance, but that compassion will protect us a lot. Another example regarding patience, which is almost the opposite. Sometimes we lose patience because we are in front of someone who is suffering. We try to help this person and don't succeed. We're not aggressive, but we will say, "I won't help you anymore. Look, as much as I did for you, you're still there suffering." And then there are other situations where someone is suffering and we don't know what to do, how to face that. We feel we don't have the means to help the other person, and we are saddened by that. So when we believe that we can do something, suffering decreases. Is it clear? Someone is suffering. I don't know what to do. I feel helpless in front of it. I'm saddened by that. That person is suffering, same situation. I do something and I think I'm doing something very successful to help the other person. That person doesn't change. I'm not so unwell. At least I did my part. Or sometimes we can feel good that we try to do something for the other person who's suffering. But who is the point in this situation? Myself or the other person? When I'm saddened in front of the suffering of another person, very often, sorry to be so direct, I'm not saddened because I get out of my comfort zone in front of the suffering of the other person. So now when I kind of clear out my guilty feeling, when we see the other person and try to see the other person, let's try to take ourselves out of this. And we can do this even when the process of anger has already started to unleash. When I see a situation, I get out of my comfort zone, I start to react in a defensive way, and I'm still on time to try to see the other person and remember that my own balance depends on myself, not on the other person. How can I where can I stand in order to help the other person? So let's remember anyway that even when we need to face our own anger, there are 3 main levels to do it. Basic, intermediate, and super advanced. Let's leave the super advanced aside. Basic is I notice that I'm angry. When I get out of my comfort zone, I cannot avoid to react in an aggressive way. I take distance from situations where I am unable to react in another way. It's not your fault, but I'm unable to be with you without reacting in a negative way. So it's not the place of the situation's fault, it's just myself that I can't leave that situation in harmony. I recognize my weakness and I just say I will not react in that way and I will take some distance. Same happens with desire. If I shouldn't be drinking water, but I love it so much, but it hurts. But I like it, but it hurts. What should I do? Shall I keep it so close? No. I'll try to keep out of water. But if I do this, putting the fault on the water, the day I will be close to it, I will just jump on it. If I get out of the object of anger, putting all the blame on it, instead of recognizing that I'm unable to react in another way, the day I'll happen to find it, I will just destroy it. So this is the first level where whenever we're unable to avoid aggressive reactions, we need to create distance. Second level, the intermediate, we are in that situation. I observe myself, I generate awareness, I recognize this feeling of uncomfortable, I slowly start to build up this self-defense. We see whatever is going on, but we are unable to stop it. Someone said it was better when I was not aware of this. Today, not only I see that I'm getting angry, I get angry, and then I'm sad about what happened. Whoever sees the process of anger and tries to observe it from the moment we get out of the comfort zone and then start in a defensive way, and then starts the counter attack. When we are in that process, when we see everything, but still we're unable not to react, we are in this level, awareness, seeing. Then awareness. I see this anger arising, this tendency to counterattack, but I won't be carried away. I create an inner distance. I remember it's impermanent, it will fade away like a wave. I create an inner distance. I won't block it. I will allow it to come and go without being taken physically, verbally, and then mentally. Next step is to give continuity to this. So continue to do it until it just disappears. Next level, generate the antidote. Compassion, awareness, gratitude, respect, self-control, calmness, balance. And the last level, which we won't see into detail, which is a super advanced, is where we can recognize the energetic factor of anger. We live in a world where there's always attraction and aversion. We understand the dynamics of anger, which is to eliminate whatever causes suffering. We understand that whatever makes us suffering is our own selfishness, ignorance, self-referential attitude, and we direct our opposition force towards whatever is effectively causing suffering. I use this force and I direct this force towards selfishness and so on, and it becomes a kind of petrol to fuel my own patience, love, and so on. And this is what is represented by Yamantaka, this destructive force directed towards the root of suffering, which is ignorance. Now, what I wanted to say as a conclusion, let's try to generate this awareness. Whatever happens, anything, it's not a valid reason to lose our own balance and react in an aggressive way. I know that some of you have already conceived some exceptions. Whatever happens except for this. No, whatever happens, it won't be a valid reason to get angry. Lama, you don't know my life. Whatever happens, it's not a valid reason to get mad. When we get to this profound certainty, this is already a huge step. Whatever happens, there are many situations in life which will take us out of our comfort zone. It's part of life. But the weaker, the more sensitive we are, the more we try to have a safe comfort zone. Let's imagine like a circle around us, which is our comfort zone. The bigger it is, the easier it will be to get out of the comfort zone. The smaller this circle is, no one will be able to step on my toes. There will naturally be situations in life where we'll be out of our comfort zone, but keeping our stability, reacting with aggression, it depends on us, and it's a habit. We need to create the positive habit to breathe, let it go, face the situation on a practical way. Whatever needs to be done needs to be done, but I won't allow myself to lose my balance, to let be carried away. I have a certain direction, there is a difficulty. Yes, there will always be. I've never met anyone in my life who had followed a life path as beautiful as virtuous, but without obstacles. Lama Ganchen Rinpoche had many obstacles. His own master had many difficulties. And likewise is everyone else's life. Lama Ganchen Rinpoche's life, if we had just a third of his challenges, we would be traumatized, crying in a corner. But quality is how we face these situations. Do I love myself or not? This is the question I need to pose myself. If I love myself, I need to have very good shoes. Shantideva, in one of his verses, said in the 6th chapter, he asked the question, is it possible to fill up the whole soil with leather to walk comfortably? Obviously not. The only way is to have good leather shoes. If I protect my feet wherever I go, I will be comfortable in walking. This means it is impossible to make sure that all the situation will go smoothly, that everything will match our expectations, that everyone around us will respect our comfort zone as we like it. But if we have very good leather shoes, which means having patience, keeping our own balance, inner force, wherever we'll go, it will be comfortable. And after all, one of the basics supporting patience is love, compassion, and altruism. One of the basics that stands anger is the self-referential attitude, the self-cherishing attitude, and selfishness. So selfishly speaking, it's better to be altruistic. When we are in that phase where, everything conceptually works out, but when anger comes, let's try to breathe. Think before thinking. So before setting a certain thought, let's think about it once more. Let's breathe in between thoughts. And this will help us enormously to proceed in another way. So let's do our dedications.
Lame kutse rapten chin namkar chinle chokchur ge padang losan tempe drame sasumge drove munsel taktu ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lama dang dralme chiki pela longche chin sada lamge yente rabzone dorje change kopa nyur tob Sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin ninsen takto delek pe jinge loba kuncho sumki ngodrup kuncho sumki trashi shun.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and spring all the path of our lives to its various signs of auspiciousness. Buona giornata.
Have a good day.